Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
The only thing I want for Christmas this year is to chill. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Thanks very much as always for submitting your questions. Remember, you can submit your questions to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. First question comes from Carla. Hi Carla. Carla asks, how do native speakers use to have? I have seen, I have got. Formal and informal. Sure, we use the verb to have for a lot of different meanings. There's a grammatical function for the verb have when we pair it with the past participle form of a verb, like I have plus past participle to make the present perfect tense, or I had plus past participle to make the past perfect tense. So there's that kind of grammatical function of the verb have. However, if you just want to use the verb have in everyday situations, like I have a phone, or I have a camera, or I don't have any money, for example, then to have in that case just means to own something or to hold something, to be keeping something. So please consider the sentence that you're looking at with the verb have in it. If it comes before a verb in the past participle, it's probably a past perfect or a present perfect expression. If you're seeing something after the verb have, like an object, in my examples, like a phone or a camera or money, then it's probably referring to owning something or keeping something. So those are probably two of the most common ways that you'll see the verb have and its variations in at least American English speech. Next question. The next person asked two questions. So the next two questions are from Esa Warsiadi. Warsiadi. I'm very sorry. Question one from Esa. Can you explain through, thorough, though, and thought? They sound similar. Yes, indeed, they do sound similar, and they even look similar in writing, for sure. However, these words have different meanings and different functions in speech and in writing. Let's look at through to begin with, though. Through means to pass into something and to come out the other side of something. So, for example, to go through a tunnel, or if you're looking at a document, for example, to go through a document means to read through, read all of the content of the document from beginning to end. So, through something is to begin at something and pass through all of the content, to pass through everything and come out the other side, or to complete something. So we also use the word through to mean finished in American English, like are you through with dinner, or I'm through with my homework. So through, those are a couple of different ways we use the word through. The second word, thorough, so different from through. Thorough means comprehensive. Thorough means completely. Thorough means well done. It has typically a positive meaning. So, for example, she was very thorough in her explanation of the word through, or she was very thorough in her explanation of the word thorough. She was very thorough in her presentation, meaning she gave a lot of information in her presentation. Thorough means well done, containing a lot of knowledge, a lot of information in something. Thorough. So please be thorough in completing your homework, or he wasn't very thorough in cleaning his room. So thorough means well done, completely done, finished. So considering everything, considering all points of something, even the small details, is considered thorough. So we can use thorough for presentations, for activities that require small details, a thorough safety check, for example. So these are actions that are done completely, fully, to the small details. So that's thorough. Next word here is though. Though, you can think of though in the same way you think of the word but. So it's used to contrast information. It's used to express a difference in something. So you could follow someone's opinion with an expression like though. So for example, I think summer is the best season, though winter is pretty fun too. So you can think of though in the same way as you think of but. A, though, B. So you're presenting A and then a contrasting opinion B, and you're connecting those two ideas with though in the same way you would but. So though. Although is similar. We use although and though and but in similar ways. What's the difference? But is much more casual, and but is used much more in casual conversation, in everyday conversation. If you're writing a document, a formal document, or if you're making a formal statement, you could use though in place of but. So though shows contrasting information. The last one on this list is thought. Thought is the past tense of think when used as a verb. So I thought you were coming today, or I thought it was going to rain later, or I thought this was such a great afternoon. Thought is used as the past tense of think. We can also use thought to refer to an idea as a noun. So I had a thought, for example, or do you have any thoughts about this project? So we can use thought as a verb, past tense of think, or as a noun to refer to an idea. So again, that's through, thorough, though, and thought. Some of you might be wondering, how do I remember which is which when I'm reading or when I'm listening? You have to pay attention to the grammar of the sentence. They all have different grammatical functions. So you need to think about the grammar surrounding the word too. On to question 2 from Issa. What does love to hate mean, and when can I use it? Love to hate means it's something that you really dislike, but it's sort of enjoyable to dislike. So for example, this is an expression we can apply to reality TV. So many people think reality TV is not very good entertainment, or it's not very high quality entertainment. However, it's really fun to watch. So maybe, for example, you just hate a character on a reality TV show, but somehow you enjoy watching that TV show too. So something that you feel very strong dislike for, and yet you really enjoy it at the same time. That's something you can love to hate. You love to hate that thing. Next question. Next question comes from Bowie Dente. Bowie Dente. Very sorry. Bowie Dente asks, when can I use ever in a present perfect sentence? Like, I have ever. Ever means at any time or at all times. You can use ever when you're asking a question, like, have you ever blah blah blah? Have you ever been to France? Have you ever eaten ramen? Have you ever taken a trip to the mountains? For example. We can use ever when making questions. That's one. But because ever means at all time or at any times, we may not use it to answer a question like that. Have you ever blah blah blah? We usually say yes or no in response to that. We can say I have never ever taken a trip to France, or I have never ever forgotten my keys, for example. I have never ever blah blah blah. But in that case, it still means never. An expression like never ever just emphasizes the word never. So to use ever, we need to pair ever with a verb in a sentence. So we can't say I have ever, just I have plus a verb. We cannot say I have ever. That's incorrect. I have at any time or at all times. It's redundant. It's not necessary. We can, however, use ever in a negative expression, like I haven't ever been to France, or she hasn't ever eaten cheese, for example. So we have to pair ever with a negative to make a response. We use ever for present perfect tense questions, and paired with a negative, have or has, to make a response, to make a negative response. So please keep those two in mind. Next question. Next question comes from Bahar. Hey Bahar, nice to see you again. Bahar's question is, what does dash mean, and when can we use it? Okay, so the word dash as a verb means to run very quickly for a short period of time. So for example, I dashed to the station to catch my train, or I dashed to the classroom for my test. He dashed off to the flower store to buy a bouquet for his mother, for example. So these are very short periods of time and very high speed. That's to dash. However, we can use dash as a noun in a way that does not refer to running. We can use it in writing as well. Sometimes we use the word dash to refer to these lines we see in writing. You might see hyphens, N dashes, and M dashes. These all have different functions in writing. Hyphens may be used to connect words, N dashes can be used to show periods of time, and M dashes can kind of show extra information in a sentence. So we call all of these dashes. This is kind of the category that we assign to each of these. So there's the verb to dash, and there's also dash as a noun, which means all of these sorts of things. So thanks for that question, Bahar. Next question. Next question comes from Ricardo Villarroel. Hey Ricardo, welcome back. Ricardo's question is, what's the difference between several, sundry, and various? Okay, I'm not quite sure how sundry fits in here. Several means a few of something. So think of several as higher than a couple or a few, but it's not quite at many yet. So maybe as a good hint, the word several sounds a bit similar to seven. Maybe it doesn't necessarily mean exactly seven of something, but it's a bit higher than a few, and it's not quite at the level of many or a lot of. The next word you asked about, sundry. Sundry is something we use for household items, like everyday small household items. We usually use that in the plural form, like shops which sell sundries. So this is quite different from the words several and various. So sundry is usually used in the plural form, and it refers to everyday items in your house. The last word you asked about, various. We use various to describe a miscellany of things. We use it before a noun typically. For example, various ideas or various people or various subjects, various topics. So various is used to describe many different types of something. Several refers to quantity. Various is just used to indicate that there are different types or different kinds of the noun that follows it. So as I said, various ideas, various flavors, various people, meaning different types of ideas, different types of people, different types of flavors. So several, quantity, various types. Next question. Next question comes from Arnett Jake Nuguid. Nugui, I'm very sorry. How do we use well before someone starts speaking and though after they speak? Well is kind of used as a soft way to begin speaking. Well, it kind of shows that you were listening to the other person. So it shows you listened to the other person and you are responding to them. Well, if that's the case, it kind of has that nuance. Well, it sort of shows you were listening and you are going to respond based on that information. Remember, though is used to show contrast. So if someone presents you with an idea or gives you an opinion and you want to show contrast to that formally, you can begin with though. So if, for example, you're in a formal situation, a business situation, for example, and someone says, I think we should continue with the idea we proposed last summer for this project. You might counter the opinion or you might oppose the opinion by beginning your statement with though. So you could say, though that's going to cost a lot of money to implement. So though shows contrast in a formal and polite way. Next question. Next question comes from Michael King. Hi, Michael. Michael asks, I want to study at home, self-study. What should I do? Yeah, okay, I have self-studied and it can be tough to do, but you have the internet. Congratulations. So what can you do? There are a lot of things. Number one, define your goal. What is it you hope to achieve? What are you looking to do through your studies? Don't just say, I want to learn English. That's not a very specific goal. Give yourself a specific goal to achieve. Like, I want to pass this level of a test, or I want to be able to do this thing in my life. I want to be able to give a business presentation in English. Number two, look for resources that are going to help you achieve that goal. If you need to work on your speaking, you need to find ways to practice your speaking. If you're looking for something to help you with your reading or your writing, for example, look for tools that do that. If you want to read, look for blogs, look for websites that have the content in your target language that you want to know more about. So start reading things and trying to pick up the vocabulary through studying those things in your target language. There are tons of resources out there, but you need to define your goal first and then start looking for the resources that match your goal. 3, maybe the most difficult one for a lot of us, is to practice every day. Find some way to make language practice part of your everyday routine. In my case, for example, I found that it was really helpful for me to take 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening during my commute on the subway to study vocabulary, and that helped me improve little by little, day by day. So it was a total of 30 minutes but it added up over time. And through practicing every day, you'll find that the resources you're using will become easier to understand. Number 4, where possible, try to create an immersion environment. If you're not in a situation where you're actually living in the country, or you can go to the country where they speak the language you're studying, try to create some kind of immersion environment for yourself where you can't escape into your native language. Just as much as possible, try to create some sort of immersion environment so that you get used to hearing those sounds and kind of the natural responses that people have to those sounds too. Number 5, I think one more really good tip for studying at home is asking questions. So there are other people who are learning your language and other people who are trying to study. We see it a lot on this channel too, and you guys are fantastic about helping your fellow classmates. When you have a question and you can't find the answer for it, ask someone. Don't let yourself get stuck. Also, think about the resources you already have. If it's a question about vocabulary, you can check a dictionary. If you want to deepen your vocabulary, you can check a thesaurus. If you have a specific question about how an expression is used, try asking a native speaker, try posting on a message board, try posting in the comments, try posting on our website. So if you have a question, reach out and ask. Chances are, if you have the question, it's going to help somebody else to ask the question and get the answer. If you have a question, ask. Good luck with your self-study. Next question. Next question is from Harley Passos. Hey Harley, welcome back. What does uncountable mean? This refers to a group of nouns that we do not count with numbers alone. So for example, bread is uncountable. Instead, we use a counter word between the number and the uncountable noun. So in my bread example, we use one loaf of bread, one slice of bread. There are different words we use to count the individual pieces or the individual units of the uncountable noun. Uncountable nouns means nouns which we cannot count with just a simple number before the noun. We need to use an additional counter word. Next question. Next question comes from Taylor. Hi again, Taylor. What's the difference between look into my eyes and look me in the eye? I would say that we use look into my eyes in more romantic situations. Or you might hear this in like movies. Maybe there's something magical that's happening and I don't know, a witch is casting a spell and she says, look into my eyes. Look me in the eye is typically used in a more aggressive situation. It's used in an expression like look me in the eye and say that. Look me in the eye tends to be a more aggressive statement. Look into my eyes sounds more romantic or mysterious. Next question from Yonhee? I'm sorry. What's the difference between I like to take naps and I like to take a nap? Or I like to go for walks and I like to go for a walk. So when you're speaking generally, especially in a sentence like I like to, you need to use the plural form of the noun. You can't use the singular form of the noun because you're talking generally about all cases of that noun or all cases of that action. You're talking about a regular activity you like to do, something you have done more than one time, something you are going to do repeatedly, presumably, into the future. So you need to use the plural form. Next question. Next question is from Suha. How do we write a good paragraph? Number 1, you need to think about the position of your paragraph in your overall document. Let's think about writing a document in terms of 3 parts: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. In the introduction section, you need to introduce the key information your reader needs to know what they're going to read about later in your document. So if your paragraph is in the introduction, you need to think about how to introduce your information there. Second, the body section of your document should be where you include your evidence, your supporting materials, your opinions, any references that you have. So if your paragraph falls in the body of the document, you should have these themes in mind. If your paragraph is in the conclusion of your document, at the end, you should be concluding or finishing your ideas. It's typically a good idea to summarize the ideas you presented in the body and the introduction of your document in the concluding section. 2, use transitions. When you're writing, it's good to transition from one sentence to another and to use good transitions between paragraphs themselves. So some example transitions could be first, second, third, or next, then, finally, after that, moreover, additionally, furthermore. So transitions help the reader connect the ideas that you're presenting in your writing. 3, avoid trying to include too much information in one sentence. Remember, you need to try to present your ideas as clearly and accurately as possible. So if you find you're just writing and writing and writing and the sentence is becoming extremely long, take a moment and look at the goal of this sentence. What are you actually trying to communicate? If you need to, break it into smaller sentences and connect them with transitions. Next question. Next question comes from Luan Garcia. Hi, Luan. Luan asks, I would like to know how to use down, up, off, in, on, and out after a verb and why it's necessary. Oh dear. Luan, this is a very big question. Your question is about phrasal verbs. These are all called phrasal verbs. Verb plus adverb or preposition. There are an enormous amount of phrasal verbs. I cannot possibly talk about all of them in one video. Phrasal verbs are necessary because they are part of speech. They are simply a type of verb. They are a type of expression. So you need to know them because they will help you to communicate effectively. So if you want to know more about specific phrasal verbs, I would suggest checking a dictionary. Okay, thanks very much for submitting your questions again this week. Great questions as always. Thank you so much. You guys make me think really hard. Remember, if you'd like to submit a question, please send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. All right, so thanks very much for watching this episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye. This is not a traditional Christmas outfit by any means. I kind of look like a cleric from the movie Equilibrium. Have you guys seen that movie with Christian Bale and Sean Bean? You know that movie where they don't have any feelings and they fight? This video is over. Bye! I'm going to use the Force to make you watch this whole video. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. You can send your questions to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. First question from Harley Pasos. I'm very sorry. Harley asks, what is the use of get plus adverb or preposition? For example, I get down. This is a question about phrasal verbs with get. We can use a lot of different things after the word get. In your example, to get down, we use it when dancing, for example, like I want to get down this weekend. It's sort of an old-fashioned expression though, to get down. We can use a lot of different words after the verb get though. For example, get into. To get into something means to become interested in something. You might hear to get at, like get at me, or get at your professor. To get at means to reach out to or to communicate with, but it's a very casual expression. You can say get after, like I need to get after my homework, for example. It means to like chase after or try to do something. Also, to get in, like to get into a club, to get into a restaurant, to get into a party. The nuance is that something is challenging, but you can gain access to that thing. Like I got into the party last night, but I wasn't on the list. There are a lot of different uses of the word get. I can't talk about all of them in this video because there are so many. So if you're curious about the various phrasal verbs that we can use with the word get, check out a dictionary. That's a really good place to start. Next question. Next question comes from Long Ann. Long Ann asks, what is the difference between simple past tense and past continuous tense or past progressive tense? Simple past tense we use for actions that started and ended in the past. So the beginning of the action and the end of the action happened in the past. So for example, the sentence, I ate breakfast is a simple past tense statement. I ate breakfast. Ate is the simple past tense. The past continuous tense, however, or the past progressive tense, is something we use to talk about an action that was continuing at a specific point in time in the past. If I want to use the past progressive tense, I can say, I was eating breakfast. Using that continuous tense, using that progressive tense implies I want to explain something else that happened at that time, or maybe I want to add some more information. So for example, I was eating breakfast at 8 o'clock this morning, or I was eating breakfast when the phone rang, or I was eating breakfast and watching TV at the same time. I was eating breakfast while studying today. By using the past progressive, I'm explaining that an action was continuing at a specific point in time, as in the example, I was eating breakfast at 8 o'clock, or I can use past progressive to show one action was happening at the same time as another action in the past. If I use just the simple past tense, I'm just saying a simple fact, in other words. This action happened. I ate breakfast at 8 o'clock. If I want to emphasize the continuous nature of the action for some reason, like I was eating breakfast at 8 o'clock, I can use the past progressive tense. In that case, it might be in response to a question like, what were you doing at 8 o'clock this morning? So if someone wants to ask maybe what you were doing at a specific point in time, like someone is suspicious of you, like, what were you doing last night? You can say like, oh, I was having dinner with my friends last night. But past tense, simple past tense is something we use for actions which start and finish in the past. But the progressive tense in past can be used to emphasize the continuing nature of that situation or that action. Next question comes from Yasin. Yasin, I'm very sorry. What's the difference between on time and in time? Is it you arrived just on time or you arrived just in time? We use on time to refer to doing something at the correct time, doing something at a scheduled time. So for example, I need to get to work on time, meaning at the correct time. Or did you make it to your appointment on time? In time, however, is used when we want to kind of give a nuance of rushing or hurrying for something. I need to leave my house now to get to the airport in time for my flight. I need to study for my test now if I want to be in time for the party later. You should probably leave now if you want to be in time for the movie. In time for something else. So I want to do action A to make my schedule meet this other condition, this other thing I would like to do, or this other thing I need to do. In time for has the nuance of a deadline. We can use this expression in like a panic, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it in time. Like to submit a paper, I'm not going to make it in time. In time means like before the deadline. Whereas on time has the meaning of completing an action or completing something at a scheduled time. Next question. Next question comes from Gerson Silva. Hi. What is the difference between shade and shadow? Oh, great. This is a great question. Both of these words can be used to refer to a place that is darker than its surroundings because there's an object that is blocking the light. We can say there's shade over there or there's a shadow over there. In that sentence, they are used the same. However, shadow refers to the dark shape only. So a person can cast a shadow. We use cast, the verb cast, with a shadow. I cast a shadow when I stand in the sun, for example. Shade, however, as a noun, refers to or has the nuance of a kind of shelter. So shelter provided by some other object, shelter from the light, shelter from the sun. So we would say stand in the shade because shade has the nuance of shelter. We would not say stand in the shadow. Shadow does not carry the nuance of shelter in the way that shade does. Interestingly enough though, shade and shadow are both used as verbs as well. To shadow something means to follow something closely. To shadow someone at work means to follow someone at work and try to understand their job, for example. Shade is used as a verb to mean to create shelter from light. For example, the canopy shaded us from the sun. Shade also has some interesting uses. You might hear the slang phrase to throw shade. Throwing shade is a really interesting slang expression that we use, which means to communicate disrespect or to communicate like contempt, bad feelings for something. When you're speaking generally, in most cases, when you want to talk about a dark, cool area, we should say shade. Stand in the shade. When you want to talk only about the dark area, that dark object, use shadow. Next question, actually 2 questions from Danny. Hi, Danny. Danny's first question is, you talked about lit as slang. Yes, I talked about lit in episode 2. Episode 1, Episode 2 of Ask Alicia. Can you please talk about the verb light and using it in active and passive? Sure. Light means to start a fire. So to light a fire, to light a candle. Some examples of active and passive voice with this verb then. Why don't we light some candles for dinner tonight? All the candles in the restaurant were lit. On our camping trip, my neighbors lit a fire and we brought hamburgers to make. A fire was lit in the campsite while we were gone. I was going to light a fire, but I fell asleep. So to light means to start a fire. He lit the house on fire. We can say to light blah 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 on fire. So there are a few different examples of using the verb light in active and in passive, past tense, future tense as well. So I hope that that's helpful. Danny's second question, can you talk about ride and its uses? Like take someone for a ride. Can I take a ride? Ride is another verb that has a lot of different uses. You use the example, to take someone for a ride means to drive together with someone. To go for a ride has the nuance of doing something just for fun. It's just for fun. I want to take a ride to a location. I want to take a ride to the mountains this weekend or take a ride to the beach. But to take someone for a ride means to invite someone to drive somewhere with you in a car. That's one way to use ride. You can also say, give me a ride. Can you give me a ride? So this is a request expression. I don't have a car. My friend has a car. I want my friend to take me in their car to a location. I can say, can you give me a ride to the movie theater? Can you give me a ride to the lake? Give me a ride is a request. So give me a ride in your car. So there are a lot of uses of ride. If you want to see all of them, or if you want to see more of them, I recommend checking a dictionary. There are quite a few, and I can't talk about them all in this video. So please check a dictionary. Next question. Okay, next question is from Fem. What does "you're too good to be true" mean? Is it good or not? Maybe you've heard this in a famous song. You're too good to be true, can't take my eyes off of you. In that case, it's a good meaning. A different way to say this expression is, you are so good, you are so amazing that I can't believe you're real. So in other words, something must be wrong. There must be some problem with you. It's not possible for you to be real because you are so good. You are so great. So you're too good to be true. It's like, wow, I'm amazed by you. So it's a good expression. If, however, maybe in a more uncommon situation, someone said like, this guy's too good to be true. Like maybe reviewing a job application, for example. This girl, she's too good to be true. Like if it's said in that way, maybe there's something suspicious about that person. This doesn't seem right. There's just too much good information here. There must be some problem with this person. Depending on the intonation, it can portray either a very positive meaning or a very suspicious meaning. In most cases, however, it's a positive meaning. So if you heard this in a song, for example, it's probably a very positive, kind of romantically nuanced phrase. Thanks very much for that question, Fem. Nice one. Next question. Rabia Arshad. Rabia Arshad. I'm very sorry. What's the difference between can and may? I saw this on the Dining Like a Champ cheat sheet and noticed these words were used for requests. What's the difference? Can and may for requests in modern English, in modern American English, are used the same. If I use them in a statement, can refers to ability, may refers to permission. Please just be careful. Can and may are only used in the same way to make requests in modern American English. Next question is from Taylor. Hi again, Taylor. Are where are you from and where were you born the same? Great question. Where are you from? Where were you born? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Where were you born is only the place where you were physically brought into the world. Maybe your hometown, the place you identify as your hometown, is different from the place where you were born. Maybe you were born in Spain, but you grew up in the USA. Your family moved after that. So you could say, I was born in Spain, but I grew up in New York City. If someone asks you, where are you from? It might be a good idea to say, I was born in blah, 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 but I was raised in blah, 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 in a different place, if the two places are different. Next question. Next question is from Hassan. Hassan says, how do we use gotta in the negative form? So we did a live stream about have to and got to and need to on the YouTube channel and on Facebook a while ago. Gotta is a contraction, a very casual contraction of got and to. It's not a real word. Gotta is just the sound that we make when we say got to very quickly. Like, I gotta go to school today, or I gotta finish my homework, or I gotta get to sleep, I'm so tired. In American English, we do not use gotta in the negative. Instead, we use have to or need to. I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I don't need to go to work tomorrow. I don't need to go to sleep right now. But American English does not use gotta in the negative form. Next question. Next question is from Sadaham. I need to improve my spoken English and my vocabulary. How do I do that? I think there's a tool on the website where you can record your voice speaking English and compare it to a native speaker saying the same thing. So I think that's a feature on the website. So check that out. If you haven't been, it's at EnglishClass101.com. There should be a recording function there where you can record your voice and compare it to a native speaker and keep practicing that until your voice and your pronunciation matches the native speaker's pronunciation. So you'll see like little waveforms there even on the recording page. So you can try to match your voice to a native speaker. So of course, practicing with native speakers where possible, repeating. So creating your own speech is important too. Practicing with like recording tools, voice recording tools. When you record yourself, you suddenly hear so many problems in your speech. So recording yourself can be another good tool. But in terms of building your vocabulary, first I need to define a goal. What do I want to talk about? If I want to talk about food, I should look for materials in my target language talking about food, and I should study those. So think about what it is that you want to do and try to be specific. Try to narrow your goal down to, what are the words that I need to do, and try focusing there. And then maybe you can widen the focus to other interests here and there too. But start maybe with the things that are going to help you communicate the things that you really want to say. So always think about your goals. What do I want to learn how to say? Next question from Ricardo Villarreal. Oh, hey Ricardo, welcome back. Is it correct to learn several languages at the same time? Ooh. Is it correct? I can't answer that, whether it's correct or not. So I've heard that if you want to try, for whatever your reason is, if you want to try to study more than one language at the same time, it's better to try to choose languages that are quite different so that there's less chance of you making mistakes or getting confused in your studies. The other thing that I think I would say is if you're studying more than one language at the same time, your progress might be a bit slower than if you studied just one language. Yeah, is it correct? I don't know. I can't answer that. That's up to you to decide. So those are all the questions that I want to talk about this week. Thank you so much for submitting so many interesting questions. I really appreciate it. So thanks very much for watching this episode of Ask Alicia. I will see you again next Saturday. Bye-bye. Bonus vocabulary word for today, spoiler, spoiler. A spoiler is secret information, key information about your media, your book, your movie, your TV show. If you see the phrase spoiler alert somewhere, it means the next piece of text, the next information, the next thing in the video is going to be secret information about the story. So if you have not seen the movie, if you have not seen the TV show, or you have not seen the book, you might find information you don't want to read yet. So spoiler means something that will spoil or something that will ruin the story for you. So no spoilers about Star Wars until we've seen it, yeah? Use the Force to study English.
Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
This shirt is the same shirt that I was wearing in the live stream this morning. It's a busy day for me. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Ask Alicia, where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Thanks very much for submitting your questions. Remember, you can submit your questions at EnglishClass101.com/askalicia. There's a hyphen between ask and Alicia, so watch out. First question for today. Do you have an American accent or a British accent? A lot of you have asked this over the course of the years. I have an American accent. To be very specific, I suppose I speak with a West Coast American accent, not British English. If you want to know what British English sounds like, there are some videos on the YouTube channel with Gina, one of our other hosts. She speaks with a British accent. So you can listen to her to kind of pick up some of the differences between my accent and her accent, British English and American English. So thanks for that question. But yes, I speak American English. Next question. How do we use the word cheers? When do we use it? Is it formal or informal? Please help. In American English, we use cheers when we're drinking. When we want to start off a drink with somebody else, we'll often clink glasses, so like touch glasses together and say cheers. We use cheers in this way in American English. In other types of English, like British English or Australian English, for example, People might use the word cheers as a way to say thank you, or as a way to say thank you in advance for something. If my friend asks me for a favor and I agree to do that favor, my friend can say cheers to me, meaning thank you in advance. So cheers, it tends to be more on the informal side. It's not a super formal expression. If you want to use it in a formal situation when you're drinking with someone, you can use cheers. But in most situations, we use it informally. Next question. Hey Alicia, how do I make this sentence negative? Let's go to the park. If you want to make a let's blah 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 sentence negative, just put not before the verb. Let's not go to the park. Let's not plus some verb or some verb phrase. Let's not go hiking this weekend. Let's not watch that movie tonight. I'm tired. Let's not blah 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 to make a let's sentence negative. Thanks for the question. Next question. What does play down mean? This is a phrasal verb. To play down something or to play something down means to decrease the significance of something. I don't want to play down how delicious my mom's Thanksgiving dinner was, or I don't want to play down my friend's success. He's doing an amazing job. If something is really great or really interesting, or it could be negative too, to play something down means to make this thing seem less than what it actually is. If there's a scandal, for example, the president is trying to play down the seriousness of this situation. It means that it's a very serious situation, but the president is trying to make it seem less serious than it is. So to play down means to make something seem less than it actually is. Good question though, thanks. Next question. The next question is about if conditionals. There's no problem when you say the main clause first and you say the if clause after. Is that correct? Yes, that's fine. In the live streams, I introduced the pattern if clause first, main clause second, but I also mentioned that we can use main clause first and then if clause second. If I finish editing this video today, I can go running. I can reverse that sentence. I can go running if I finish editing this video today. Both sentences are totally correct. It's up to you to choose which order you like. Thanks for the question though, good one. The next question is about the present perfect progressive tense. I said I have been wanting to blah blah blah. Why did I use the verb want in the continuous tense as wanting? I used the progressive form wanting because from a point in the past until now, there's something I have desired, I have wanted to do. Continuously though, to give a strong nuance of the continuous nature of that, I use the progressive or the continuous form wanting. I've been wanting to see that movie. I've been wanting to get a coffee with my friend. I've been wanting to get more sleep. I've been wanting to go jogging. Something you started to want in the past and continued to want until this point in time, you can say I have been wanting. We can apply other verbs to this pattern too, like I've been thinking about you all week. I've been worrying about you all day. So these continuous past emotions too. We can use the progressive tense to talk about those. Thanks for that question though, that's a good one. Next question. Next question comes from Ricardo Villarroel. I'm very sorry. What does one mean as a subject? One means any person. It sounds rather formal. In more casual speech, we say you. Like if you went to the movie theater, where would you buy popcorn? To make it sound more formal, we could say, where would one buy popcorn? Instead of using you, we say one. So you might see this more in writing or perhaps in situations where you is not appropriate or it's too casual. So one means any person. It doesn't mean the number. It doesn't refer to another noun necessarily. A lot of if sentences, like if one were a doctor, how much money would one make? One just means a person, any person. Thanks, Ricardo. Next question from Nita Apriani. I hope I said your name right, I'm very sorry. Can I say the ketchup on that crispy chicken was savory? The flavor was barbecue, teriyaki, or black pepper. It wasn't spicy. Ah, yes, you can say a sauce is savory. That's very, very common. So something savory, as we talked about quickly in the food live stream, flavors that are not so sweet, but that are still very, very flavorful. Something that's usually a little bit more salty. We don't really use savory to explain sweet things. It's more for kind of salty things or things that have a really deep flavor about them. So yes, you can describe your sauce or your barbecue sauce or your chicken, whatever you put on your chicken, as savory. That's a great word to describe. Thanks for that question. I almost forgot. There's one more thing I want to talk to you about. You guys did not ask this question, but I noticed it during the food live stream that we did recently. The difference between dessert and desert is one S in spelling. However, these two words are different. Let's start with the word dessert, the sweet food that comes at the end of a meal. Dessert is spelled with two S's. We use D-E-S-S-E-R-T to spell dessert. However, the word desert, which is spelled D-E-S-E-R-T, refers to like a dry landscape. Not many plants, not many animals live there. That's a desert. If you misspell the word dessert and you forget that S, it becomes desert. Also, very interestingly, there's another way to pronounce the word that's spelled D-E-S-E-R-T. This is a verb, to desert. So to desert means to leave something without planning to come back, like to desert a town or to desert your family, to abandon something. Also, it can mean like leaving a military position, like so to desert the army. Please note, desert as the end of a meal and to desert, meaning to leave or to abandon something, have the same pronunciation but different grammatical functions. So please be careful at this point. How can we put them all together? I'm going to desert my station so that I can enjoy dessert in the desert. Ho ho. Okay, so I think those are all the questions that I want to take a look at this week. Remember, if you want to submit a question, you can send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. Type away. I would be waiting for your messages. A recent live stream, which many of these questions are from, is about food. So if you had any other food, vocabulary related questions, let me know. Thanks very much for watching this episode, and I will see you again next week. Bye bye. Soup is magical. Do you not agree? When I was little, as part of our Thanksgiving school activities, we would put our hands on a piece of paper and then draw an outline of our hands with a pen. After that, we take our hand away and we color a turkey. I wonder if I could still do that. We'd stick our hand on a piece of paper like this and then we draw around it. So I'm gonna make a really ugly turkey right now. You ready? Step 1, make a handprint. Step 2, make a turkey. And my turkey looks suspiciously like a chicken. This is very not good. This is in fact very bad. This is a turkey that has had some life experiences, let's just say that. It looks like a chicken that got in a fight. Alright, this is terrible. It's like he's stuck in a windstorm or something. I am not meant to be an artist, but yeah. Happy New Year! Let's talk about present perfect tense. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. As always, remember, you can submit your questions to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. First question. This question comes from Zara. Hi Alicia, I have a question about present perfect tense. In my native language, there isn't a tense called present perfect tense. I am confused because I don't know the differences between present perfect tense and simple past tense well. Let's begin with an in-depth explanation of these two grammar points and the differences between them. Okay. To begin, let's begin with the simple timeline here. We have the past, now, which is the star on the timeline, and the future. So we're going to focus on the past and the now points. Let's focus on those. So first, let's look at the simple past tense. We use the simple past tense for actions which started and ended in the past. So at a point in time before the present, a point in time before now, in other words. On our timeline then, let's imagine there are 2 points, a start point and an end point for that action. Okay, so here I've made a start point and an end point on the timeline. So in the past, you can see there are 2 points, the start and the end of the action, both are in the past. You'll see both of them are in the past. That's the first point about the simple past tense. Also, these are for actions that we did at a specific point in time. We can assign a specific point in time to these actions. For example, this morning, last year, last week, yesterday. There's a specific point in time we can attach to these actions. Okay, so let's talk now about the present perfect tense. Present perfect tense has a couple of different uses. The first use of present perfect tense I want to explain is using the grammar point to explain a life experience. Let's take a look at how visually this is different from the simple past tense. So now on the timeline in blue, you can see this sort of dotted line that I made with a question mark. So the dotted line begins in the past and it ends now. It ends at the current point in time. This is because we use present perfect tense to talk about things that happened at some point in the past, but The specific point is unimportant or unknown. We don't need to explain when the action happened. We only want to state we have had or have not had that experience. So we use this when we want to talk about our life experiences. For example, travel experience or work experience. Like, I have never been to France, or I've eaten pho. My parents have never been outside the country, for example. We use this to talk about life experience, but we don't include a specific point in time when we talk about these experiences. It's just some time before the present. The specific point in time is not important in that sentence. You might follow up this sentence with a specific point in time, in which case you use simple past. So let's talk about one more use of the present perfect tense. This is the one we use with the words for and since, and we can also use the continuous tense with this use. The black line on the timeline here shows an action that started in the past and continues to the present, or it's an effect of an action that continues to the present. We use this to talk about our studies, for example, or the places where we live. Like, I have been studying English for 3 years, or I have lived in Brazil for 10 years, for example. So remember that we use the words for and since along with this form of the present perfect tense. We use for before a length of time, like I've studied for 3 years, I've lived in Brazil for 5 years, and we use since before a period of time. So I've been studying since 2009, or I've lived here since 2013, for example. So please keep this in mind. The present perfect tense is used for actions that started in the past and continue to the present. Simple past tense is used for actions which started and ended in the past. Next question. This question comes from Maxime. Hi, Maxime. What's the difference between 1 year and a year? For example, I've lived here for a year, or I've lived here for 1 year. In this sentence, no difference, honestly. When you're talking about time periods, a year and 1 year, a minute, 1 minute, they don't mean anything different. They mean the same thing. Thanks for the question, though. Next question. Next question comes from Huang Jang-ik. Huang Jang-ik, I'm very sorry. Which one is correct? I work out for 1 to 2 hours a day. I work out for 1 or 2 hours a day. I drink coffee 2 to 3 times a day. I drink coffee 2 or 3 times a day. Both of these are correct, actually. In this case, there are very, very small differences between these. 1 to 2 hours a day means between 1 and 2 hours. If you say, I work out for 1 or 2 hours a day, it means it's determined, like 1 hour only for workout, or 2 hours only for a workout. So the difference here is, are you determining, are you deciding 1 hour, or 2 cups of coffee, or 3 cups of coffee? Or is it between those two amounts? So using 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 means between those two amounts. Using or shows it's either A or B, but not between those two. This is the difference between to and or. Next question. Next question comes from Huang Sena. Huang Sena. I'm very sorry. I've never been to Japan. I've never been to Japan before. I've never eaten horse. I've never eaten horse before. My question is, if you put before at the end of those sentences, does it mean you are in Japan right now, or you are eating horse right now? No, not necessarily. Think of before at the end of the sentence as before now. I've never eaten horse before now, in other words. You could use this just before you eat horse, or just before you go to Japan, if you like, as an emphasis phrase, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are in Japan now, or that you're eating horse now. You could use it in that way, sure, but it doesn't necessarily mean it. If you'd like to emphasize it, like if you're about to eat horse, for example, and you say, I've never eaten horse before, you could show your interest, or perhaps to show maybe some anxiety or nervous feelings about what you're about to do. But no, it does not necessarily mean you are in that place. Like, for example, you could just be having a conversation. Have you eaten horse before? No, I've never eaten horse before. It could just be a conversation about it. But really, before just means before now. Next question. Next question comes from Rashkesh. I'm sorry. Where do we use wanna and gonna and how. This question is about the casual contracted forms of want to and going to. So want to becomes wanna, going to becomes gonna in casual speech. We use them in exactly the same way we would use I want to, I'm going to, he wants to, she wants to, he's going to, she's going to. We use them in exactly the same way, which means we use them in casual situations like I want to take a day off, or I'm going to go to the beach this weekend, or do you want to see a movie tonight? We use them in exactly the same way. We use want to and going to, but we use them in speech. Typically, we don't write these unless we're writing very casual messages, like text messages to our friends or something. Next question. Next question comes from Garrison Silva. Hey again, Garrison. When can I use the expression take for granted? Take for granted. This is an expression which we typically use in the negative, like don't take something something for granted. Don't take blah 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 for granted. It means don't forget to appreciate this thing or this person. So for example, don't take your parents for granted, or don't take this opportunity for granted. These expressions mean don't forget to appreciate these things, or don't just disregard your parents, or don't disregard this opportunity. Recognize the importance of something. So if you are given a good opportunity, for example, or someone gives you good advice, or a very nice gift perhaps, we would typically use this with the negative. Don't take something something for granted, meaning don't forget to show your appreciation for that thing or for that person. Next question. Next question comes from Daniel Silvero. Hi, Daniel. Daniel asks, what is the difference between wish and desire? Greetings from Paraguay. Hey. What is the difference between wish and desire? Wish is used to express a want, when you want something that is different from the present situation. So we often use it with I wish I were, or I wish I could. Something we want, or an ability we want, but that we do not have now. Something for the future. So I wish I could speak 7 languages, or I wish I had $1 million, or I wish I were taking more time off every week, for example. Something that is different from the present condition, the present situation, we use wish. Or I wish you would call me, for example. I wish you would, or I wish you could, to express something that is not happening now. Desire, on the other hand, desire tends to be used more formally, and it also can carry more romantic nuances. It's not used as much conversationally as the word wish is. Wish is used to express wants, things that we want that are not true now. Desire is used more in romantic situations, like to desire another person, or he desired more of her time, for example, but it sounds unnecessarily formal, I feel. You might use it in a more formal, like a business context, like our client desires more information about the situation. That could be a different use of the word desire, but in general, it sounds a bit more formal and a bit more romantically charged at times, depending on the situation when it's used. If you're talking about a person as well, like if you say, for example, I desire you, it sounds actually quite odd, at least in American English. If you want to use the word desire, I think in romantic situations, it might be applied in a phrase like, he was filled with desire, or she was filled with desire, used more as a noun than as a verb. So I would recommend not using desire so much to talk about your wants, as it can sound a little bit too formal or can give perhaps the wrong nuance to the situation. But wish is used to express a hope for something or wanting something that is different from the present situation. So I hope that helps. Next question from Han Yon Hee. Han Yon Hee? Very sorry. Hey Alicia, what's the difference between maybe, probably, perhaps, and possibly? Great question. Maybe, probably, perhaps, possibly. Okay, maybe, probably, perhaps, and possibly. These are all adverbs. They have the same grammatical function. Maybe, probably, perhaps, and possibly. Maybe and perhaps are very closely related. Maybe and perhaps they have the same meaning, but just different levels of formality. Maybe is like the lower level, the more casual version of the word perhaps. So maybe I'll go to the beach this weekend, and perhaps I'll go to the beach this weekend. They have really the same meaning, but perhaps sounds more formal. Probably, however, is different. Probably expresses a higher level of possibility than the other words on this list. I'll probably go to the beach this weekend is like a 75 to 80% chance the speaker is going to go to the beach this weekend. Possibly, however, possibly has more of a nuance of just that something can be done. It is possible to do something. We use possibly more in requests, like could you possibly blah 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 for me? Could you possibly send me this file? Possibly sounds a little too formal for casual conversations and invitations, but if you're using it at work, for example, could you possibly meet me later this week? Instead of could you maybe meet me? So the difference between maybe and possibly and perhaps there, possible has that root, yeah? Possible, able to. So maybe and perhaps don't have that nuance. Possibly sounds like, is it possible? Are you able to do this thing? Maybe and perhaps don't contain that nuance. So to recap, maybe and perhaps are used to express the same thing, a chance of something happening. Perhaps is more formal. Possibly is used in a similar way, however, it refers more to simple possibility than are you able to do that thing. Probably expresses a high chance of something. Thanks so much for all your questions. Remember, you can submit to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Ask Alicia. I will see you again next week. Bye-bye. Happy New Year, and I hope that your studies continue well. I have purchased a microphone. What can you do with a new mic? Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. Welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series on our YouTube channel where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. So please remember you can submit your questions to me at englishclass101.com/askalicia. First question. A lot of you have asked about what to do to get a voice that sounds like mine. When I'm making these videos, I'm specifically trying to speak clearly, so I'm clearly separating my words. The way that I talk with my friends and the way that I talk regularly is a bit different than the way that I talk on this channel. But if you want to try to get this kind of pronunciation, the best advice I have is just to repeat this kind of pronunciation. It depends on your goal. If you want to learn to speak like me or to speak like somebody else that you really admire, you should try to mimic them. That's what I do, and that's actually a strategy that I use when I study other languages as well. So if I hear something interesting, that a vocabulary word that a friend has used, like in Japanese for example, or they have a really good intonation, or just the way they deliver, the way they say something is really interesting to me, or I want to be able to use that too. I put that in my head, I think about that, and then I try to replicate that. I try to copy that, essentially. To make this explanation shorter, mimic. Mimic. If you want to learn to speak like me, mimic me. If you want to learn to speak like somebody else, try to mimic someone else. But just keep in mind that the way that I talk in these videos is different from the way that I talk in real life. Next question. What does the word lit mean? What does the word lit mean? Lit is actually a slang word. It's common slang among young people, especially in the US right now. Maybe many of you know that the verb to light has the past tense lit. Lit is used to talk about, for example, a party or some kind of social gathering usually that's really exciting or that's really, really fun or that's kind of crazy. So lit, using the past tense there, you can kind of imagine that like a fire, when you light a fire, it gets bigger and it gets kind of wild, a little bit crazy, like there's a spark and then it starts. So if you see the word lit, like this party was lit, it means it was really crazy, it was really good, it was really fun. You can use it if you want, but just keep in mind that really young people use that word. I don't use that word for reference, but again, I'm not cool. Next question. What is correct? I thought you were gone, or I thought you are gone. I thought you are gone. we need to use I thought you were gone here. I thought you were gone. So I thought, past tense, and you were is also past tense. It's a past tense thought, past tense situation. So please use past tense. Yeah. Next question, also maybe about were and was. Why do we use if I were and not if I was? This is a great question, and actually a lot of native speakers make mistakes with this. It's a small point, to be fair, but if you want to be correct, you should always use if I were. This is a grammar point. It refers to the subjunctive mood. The subjunctive mood. An explanation of subjunctive is a bit beyond the scope. It's a bit much for this video, but we will always use if I were. When the subject there is I in the conditional, if I were, we always use were. You will hear native speakers say if I was, if I was. If you want to be extremely strict and extremely nitpicky, were is actually the correct one, but if you use was, if you make a mistake and you use was, you will still be understood. So, but yes, this is related to the subjunctive mood in English. Next question. Okay, next one isn't really a question, but something I have noticed that many of you do. You like to put the article a or an before your adjective, before an adjective, but you forget to use a noun. Do you know how like Mario introduces himself and he says, "It's a me"? When you forget to use some kind of noun after your adjective or whatever, but you sound a bit like Mario's. It's a nice. It's a nice. It's a nice what? It's funny to me, like, it's a nice, or it's a me. You need to include the noun that you're referring to. It's a nice video, or it's a nice explanation. It's nice, or it's bad, or it's good, or this was a nice explanation. But don't forget to use your noun after you use the adjective. It's a nice something. It's a good something. It's a bad something. So please, no article without a noun. Make sure to use your noun, and it should be in the singular form. If you're using a or an, you need to use the singular form of the noun. Don't sound like Mario. Next question. What does it mean they can't take that away from me? Who are they? And what does take away mean? We use the word they to mean generally just other people outside of us. This is used a lot to talk about like news or to talk about general opinion. They say that this pizza is the best pizza in the city right now. They say that your English will only improve if you study every day. They say that the most difficult thing you can do in your life is move to another country. They is just anyone. Second point, what does take away mean? Take away means to some object that belongs in one location is removed from that location. Like take away food. In American English, we use take out, actually. But take away food is a similar idea, especially like in British English, take away. So you take away your food from the restaurant. So you're taking something else. You're removing your food from the restaurant. So in the expression, they can't take that away from me, they, meaning other people outside you, can't take something away from you. Next one. What does the phrase "don't be a creep"? Don't be a creep mean? I think Michael talked about this on an old English topics video. So I talked in a live stream about the word creepy, adjective creepy. So something that causes like nervous suspense is something that's creepy. The word creep is used as a noun. Don't be a creep. A person who is creepy. A guy can be a creep. A girl can be a creep. So a creep is someone who causes creepy feelings. Like, oh, something bad might happen. I feel nervous. Like, that person's a little strange, a little weird. That person is a creep. He's a creep. She's a creep. So don't be a creep means you should not behave like a creep. Don't create nervous feelings in the other person. Don't be a creepy person. Don't be a creep. Everybody, that's good advice. Don't be a creep. Don't be a creep. Try to be a nice and understanding and respectful person, always. Next question. Oh, that was my last one for this week. All right, so those are my favorite questions, or the questions that I wanted to talk to you about this week. I hope that those are some useful points for you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know at englishclass101.com/askalicia. That's where you can submit your questions to me. It makes it very easy for me to check and see all the questions in one place. So definitely check that out. I think you can sign in with your regular EnglishClass101.com account and submit as many questions as you want. And then I'll choose what I like and what I want to talk about. And of course, if a lot of you ask the same question, I'll definitely try to answer that too. So please check that out, EnglishClass101.com/Ask Alicia. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Ask Alicia, and I'll see you again next week. Bye! What are the things I can do with my microphone, I wonder? I feel like I had some ideas for this when I was laying in bed last night, and now I've forgotten them all. Oh, now I can take my videos on the road and make it like a golf reporter. Yes, the ball is rolling. Why am I Russian? I'm a Russian golf reporter now. Oh, maybe I'll be a beatboxer. How do you do that?